The Pentagon's top general declined to endorse a Christmastime withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan announced by the president, saying it will depend on a number of factors. General Mark Milley's comments seem to differ from the president's tweet last week, saying the U.S., quote, should bring home all remaining troops by Christmas, although it is unclear if that was an order or an idea. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien added to the confusion last week when he said troops will be cut to 2,500 instead of a full withdrawal by sometime in early 2021. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley made the comments in an interview with NPR Radio. He said bringing home the remaining 4,500 troops will happen if the Taliban reduces violence and makes progress in its peace talks with the Afghan government. Joining us now to discuss this is retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt. He's also a former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs and former Deputy Director for Strategy and Plans for Central Command and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Middle East Affairs. Welcome, General. Really glad to have someone with your level of expertise. First of all, what is your take on the fact that the Commander-in-Chief, his National Security Advisor, and the Pentagon are not giving consistent messaging on this?
Well, I don't think that's helpful, particularly for those young troops on the ground who really want to know what their fate looks like in the next few months. But it's also very unhelpful during the peace negotiations with the Taliban. Obviously, when they see that kind of difference between opinions back here in the United States, they can use that to their advantage in the negotiations and actually get perhaps a better deal than they would have otherwise.
Is a complete U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan actually feasible, in your view?
Well, I think it is. We have seen withdrawals from Iraq in 2011. The job is not done in Afghanistan yet, but it may be a time to turn it over both to the Afghan military and the Afghan government itself. Is it feasible? Yes. Is it advisable? That's where the difference of opinion comes in.
Well, the war in Afghanistan has been going on for nearly 2 decades, and bringing home service members has been a popular point that has been raised from politicians across the political spectrum. What are the remaining troops still responsible for, and what should the U.S.'s strategic goal be in the country?
Well, I think what they're doing is primarily 3 operations. Number 1, providing intelligence to the Afghan forces so they can do the fighting. There still is some training and logistic support so that the soldiers on the battlefield of the Afghan army are trained and have the equipment they need. And we do selected counterterrorism operations in country for those terrorists that are not only a threat to Afghanistan, but also a threat to the American homeland as well.
Negotiations are underway between the Taliban and Afghanistan on a peace deal. It follows the agreement the U.S. reached with the Taliban in February. What do you make of that deal?
So I think that it is kabuki at best. The provisions are that the United States will leave and not come back, and that the Taliban will take care of al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations within the country. The Taliban have no capability to control the terrorists inside the country. They're a small band, a large number, but not very capable. So they can't make that promise. And as a result, we really can't make that promise that we won't return. If there is a threat to the American homeland, we will send our special operations forces, whether the Taliban agree to that or not. So I think it's an understanding between both sides, but the enforcement and the monitoring of that peace deal, I think, will reveal how thin it really is.
General, I want to ask, with the election right around the corner, we've seen both President Trump, of course, and Joe Biden talk about their foreign policy agendas. How would you compare what we saw under the Obama-Biden administration with respect to foreign policy in the Middle East and Afghanistan with what we have seen from President Trump in his first term?
Well, I think the Obama administration believed that the best path to peace in the Middle East would be to come to an accommodation with Iran with regards to their nuclear weapons, despite the fact that all of the Arab countries inside the region violently and vehemently disagreed with that. On the other hand, you had President Trump who came in, who believed that rather than upset the Arab world and coddle to the Iranian world, the Persian world, he would reverse that, go back to our traditional alliance with the Arab countries, and start what he called the maximum pressure campaign to try to drive the Iranians back to the negotiating table for a better deal on the nuclear agreement, which not only includes nuclear capability, but also missile capability and the significant threat posed by their proxy operations inside the region. All of those, which quite frankly are far more of a threat to the Arab world than they are to the United States or Europe.
All right, General Mark Kimmitt, thank you so much, General, for your time. Really appreciate it.